If you'd like to skip the pre-episode chat, please see the timestamps listed in the episode description. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. And if you don't want to hear the pre-episode chat, check the timestamps in the episode description. I always mean to say it here, but then I forget. So here it is.
And if you're on Spotify, you can literally click on the time and it will take you to wherever you want to go in the episode. So do that.
So today it is June 27th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. for reference. It has been crazy hot in New York, very stormy. The weather has been wild to the point where I'm like, is this the new normal? Because I hate it. Since I've moved here, I've lost power probably 4 times already, whereas at my old apartment, that's probably how much I lost power in the 6 years that I lived there, because I think since I was on like a main street and I was just in an area that I didn't really lose power ever. So I don't know. I'm ready to buy a generator. What's going on with you? You have a bit of a car update for the masses.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't want to jinx it, but maybe the car saga is over. We picked up, it's Friday here, Friday morning. Picked up the new car Wednesday afternoon. I've literally driven it for probably 40 minutes all up, just, around town. So hopefully it's going well for now. Hopefully it keeps going well. The guy who we bought the car off was really nice, but I said to my husband, I'm just going to wait a few weeks before I give him a review online, just in case something happens again. But hopefully, surely this is it. Surely it can't happen again. Maybe I'll be back in a few weeks with some other news, but hopefully that's it. It was a year yesterday since we signed for the first car, and then we did have to wait 6 months for it, which is why it's like a long process. But this whole saga has been going on for a year.
It's so crazy.
So surely that is it now. Things can be calm. I can just have a car to drive for a little while and just enjoy and relax, and hopefully that's it.
Yeah, say a prayer.
With how the universe is, I don't know. I don't even know anymore. I'm just like, whatever. Bring it.
Are the kids excited or they're still nervous?
No, they're excited. I am taking it on the freeway tonight as well, probably. Which I'm happy to do that without the kids, because that was kind of where it all went wrong last time. So maybe I'll just give it a little test out on the freeway by myself.
Yeah.
But they are excited, and I feel like we made the right decision, because we had originally gone for the replacement, and then we changed our mind when I found out there was all these other issues, and I feel like that was. At the time, I'm like, I don't know, but I feel like it was absolutely the right thing to do. So fingers crossed this new fresh start is a good thing for us.
Yeah, definitely.
What's happening with you?
Nothing really, honestly. Just still trying to get through life like the rest of us. Nothing exciting going on. Still working on house stuff. Still trying to get all that done. It's just endless and exhausting, so... I go on vacation at the end of the month, so the end of July. It's almost July. When this comes out, it might be July, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it will be, yeah.
So I'm excited about that. We will have 1 week off when I go on vacation, so just accept that now.
Save up your episodes for re-listening.
Usually we don't take a dark week when I go on vacation, so you can't even be mad about it this time, because I usually don't know when I'm going on vacation until the last minute. So this will be the first time where we don't usually record when I'm down there. We plan ahead and we double record. And then it's driving from New York to North Carolina, which is a 10 to 12 hour drive. So I would just edit the podcast in the car when I wasn't driving. So it was never really that big of a deal, but it'll be nice to skip a week. But we'll have Patreon. Not to be go join Patreon, but go join Patreon.
A good little mid-year break, refreshed for the last half of the year.
Yeah. July 4th is coming up. I don't really have any plans. Maybe I'll eat a hot dog. I feel like that's what you do on July 4th. I love hot dogs. Do you remember that study, quote study, that came out last year or maybe 2 years ago? I don't know. There was something that came out that was probably fake on the internet that was every hot dog you eat takes off 15 minutes of your life or something.
I remember when I was in high school, we did a thing where you had to kind of dissect sausages or a hot dog and look at what the ingredients were. And honestly, years after that, I did not eat another one.
Really? I'd still be I don't care. This is what it says. According to the study, it's 61 grams of processed meat resulted in the loss of 27 minutes of healthy life. But when you add ingredients like sodium, trans fatty acids. The final value clocked in at 36 minutes lost. I'm surprised I'm not dead yet.
Wow. That's wild.
It can't be true. I'm sure it's just like this stuff is not good for you type thing.
But then when you eat some vegetables, you get more life back, so it all works out.
So yeah. And then, like, how are you going to tell me that, like, Joey Chestnut, the hot dog eating champion guy, how he's just, like, still living then? I'm assuming that after they eat all those, they have to throw them up. There's no way.
No, I would, think so later.
Actually, apparently I saw I don't know if you follow the hot dog eating contest on July 4th ever. It's just, like, a dumb thing here that they do at Nathan's on, like, Coney Island, I think. But Joey Chestnut's always the champion. I think I saw this year he actually can't compete because he has a brand deal with like a vegan company, like an Impossible type thing. So he can't do it, which is crazy. It's like his whole brand.
His whole branding. What a image change.
I know. It says he's banned from the Nathan's hot dog eating contest over a rival deal. The 16-time reigning champion lost his spot in this year's competition after signing an endorsement deal with a company that makes plant-based hot dogs, potentially clearing the way for an underdog. I'm sure the other people are thrilled.
Wow.
When we started recording, I was like, I don't have anything to talk about. And here I am talking about hot dog eating contests. Anyways, I don't really have anything to actually talk about. So we'll just get into it because I feel like it'll be a long one anyways. We do have an update to start. Lauren Dickason, we did an episode on her, I don't know, a while ago, some time ago.
I think it was the end of last year, maybe. So she and her husband were South African doctors who moved to New Zealand, and basically the husband kind of went back to work and she was looking after the kids who were 6 and 2-year-old twins. So she did struggle a lot with depression. I feel like I'm like remembering off the top of my head, but I feel like she did 17 rounds of IVF to have some of the children. Yeah. Like she had a long fertility struggle, but she was struggling with lockdown, I guess, in 2020, moving to a new country. Plus there seems like there was a lot going on. She asphyxiated the children with cable ties. She told them that they were going to make necklaces, and so she basically killed them. Her lawyer's argument was that she also, because she did, I think, make kind of a basic attempt to take her own life. So the lawyer's argument was that she also wanted to die and that she didn't want to leave the kids alone. But anyway, she was convicted of murdering them. She was sentenced this week. She was sentenced to serve 18 years in a mental health unit. Shortly after the sentence was handed down, Lauren issued a statement saying she had failed her daughters. She said, "I take responsibility for taking our 3 beautiful girls from this world. I would like to take this opportunity to convey my deepest and most sincere remorse for the extreme pain and hurt caused to my children and my family by my actions." So in terms of the sentence, Justice Cameron Manda ruled a life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years would be unjust, which is crazy. He did not sentence her to life in prison, but he sentenced her to 3 determinate sentences of 18 years to be served concurrently, which means essentially the maximum that she can serve is 18 years. He did not set a minimum term of imprisonment. Therefore, she is eligible for parole after a third of her sentence, which is 6 years, has been served. And she will be detained at a mental health facility rather than prison. She will maybe be transferred to a prison if she ever becomes mentally well enough to be transferred there, which I feel like 6 years minimum is wild. And I understand she was mentally ill, but I feel like that is... I don't know. I said on our Instagram post about this. I don't know what sentence I expected, but a 6-year minimum was probably not it.
Obviously, they know more about her mental health and all that during the trial, where I'm like, okay, 18 years in a mental health facility, I'd be like, fine.
Yeah.
But 6 would be crazy.
Yeah. So when she was sentenced, she remained silent. She didn't react, but her mother wept. We did have an interesting message because a lot of people commented on our post that we made, like, this is ridiculous, this is a disgusting sentence, all along those lines. Someone wrote, "As someone living in New Zealand, it's very unlikely she's going to get parole, especially when she's under a special treatment order and is a prisoner." They wrote, "I know someone who looked after her when they were a student nurse. She's in a locked area away from other patients and people and not allowed any mail in or out," which I feel like that's not true because didn't someone write mail to her? I think we've spoken about that in the past.
I don't remember.
Anyway, but basically it says, "I feel sad for her because there are obviously signs of mental health before moving over, but also feel angry as she's a doctor who could have called for help." So I guess, maybe she won't get out in the 6 years, especially if she isn't mentally competent. I'm not sure, but Anyway, I did find that sentence shocking. Like, I agree. I feel like 18 years, I would have been like, okay, yep, that's probably fair enough. But maybe a minimum of 6 years just seems crazy. And, like, to be fair, she has been in jail already for a few years. But, yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens.
I do think it's interesting, though. It just had me thinking about it, where when we post about these cases, there's so many people who comment and they're like, we need more help for women, PPD, mental health. Like, these women need to be protected and like treated differently, and they shouldn't just be sentenced to like life in prison and never get help. But then when they do get a sentence like this, everyone's like, oh my God, what the hell? She should be rotting in prison for the rest of her life. It's like everybody's always in an uproar no matter what the situation is, which doesn't really have anything to do with anything, just an observation of thinking about the comments on our posts of people are never like, oh, okay. But yeah, so that's really it with her story, I guess. I don't really see anything else coming from it.
Unless, in the next 10 years or so we might hear again. But yeah, I assume that's it for that one for now.
Yeah. I mean, like, I get the judge's thinking, and I do think, like, there should be better options for people who are clearly struggling with a mental illness. But it's hard because it's like, just because you have mental illness, I don't think people should get off for...
No, like...
It shouldn't be, like, seen as an excuse.
And I know, like, we could talk about this all day, but essentially she was a doctor, her husband was a doctor. They were aware of her, maybe not to the extent that she had the mental health issues, but she had resources, she had education, they had money. Like, this is a case where she could have been helped and she wasn't. So, you still have to take responsibility for your actions. And do you know what? In the end, she has. She just, in the sentence, she said, I take responsibility, I did this. And I guess that's what the judge felt was needed. And you know what? She has to live, like, I'm not defending the sentence. I do think the sentence probably should have been a little bit harsher, but she has to live a whole life knowing what she did, that her marriage is over, she's ruined the lives of all these people. That in terms of punishment would be a lot as well.
Before you get into the episode, we have a quick word from our sponsor, Dipsea. Spring has sprung and summer's just around the corner. Packing your bag with sunscreen, your emotional support water bottle, and that steamy beach read. But wait, this year there's a new kind of essential that's right at your fingertips.
Dipsea is an app full of hundreds of short, spicy audio stories. They bring scenarios to life with immersive soundscapes and realistic characters. Discover stories about second chance romances, adventurous vacation flings, and hot and heavy hookups. There's new content released every week, so in between listening to your favourite stories again and again, there's always something new to explore. And I love that Dipsea offers a modern approach to romance through high-quality and captivating audio fiction. For listeners of the show, Dipsea is offering an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/TCS. That's 30 days of full access for free when you go to dipseastories.com/TCS. dipseastories.com/TCS.
Okay, Stephanie here. I had to re-record a little bit right here because we had some audio issues for some reason, and there's like a little tiny bit of audio missing right here. So if it sounds a little different, it's because it is. I'm recording this while I'm editing it, basically, and it's just me by myself. So that's why there's a weird gap right here. So anyways, today's episode is going to be about the Cheshire Murders, which happened in July 2007 in Cheshire, Connecticut. And during the invasion, Jennifer Hawke-Petit and her two daughters, Haley, who was 17, and Michaela, who was 11 years old, were murdered. And Dr. William Petit, the father of the girls, who was also home, he was attacked by the home invaders and was tied up and beat with a baseball bat, but he was able to escape before the home invaders set the house on fire and killed his family. But essentially, the two men that broke into the family's home held them hostage overnight and before making the mother go to the bank to take out money. And it's just like a really horrific, sickening crime that so many people messaged us about since saying we were going to record this episode, saying when they heard this story, it's just stuck with them forever. This one's always stuck with me as well. It's not local to me, but I probably live an hour away from Cheshire, Connecticut. So it was like local enough that it was always on our local news around here because it was such a horrible story. But yeah, so I've always just checked in with this case. I'll randomly think about it, and it's just a really difficult one. Okay, so back to the proper recording. Just a trigger warning, this case does discuss child murder, obviously, and it does talk about child sexual assault a little bit. Nothing overly graphic, but it's like really sickening what happened to these people, so just a warning.
Cheshire Murders.
My name is Mary Lyons. I'm the banking center manager. We have a lady who is in our bank right now who says that her husband and children are being held at their house. The people are in a car outside the bank. She is getting $15,000 to bring out to them that if the police are told, they will kill the children and the husband. Her name is Jennifer Petit, P-E-T-I-T.
Okay, she still is in the bank?
Yes, she is.
Okay, she's being held. Her
husband
and family is being held?
Yes.
At their house?
Yes. They're tied up. She said they drove her here. I'm trying to look and see where she's gone. She went outside, but I don't... Oh, wait, I see her walking now. She is petrified.
So we'll talk a little bit about Cheshire, Connecticut quickly. In terms of population, Cheshire is currently around 30,000, and the median household income in Cheshire is $120,000 compared to $78,000 statewide. So it's a pretty well-off area. When you look at their house, it doesn't seem like, it's not like this huge mansion. It's definitely a nice house, and he is a doctor, so they seem to be doing pretty well. So that's some background into the victims first before we get into it. So Jennifer, she's the mom, wife, was born on September 26, 1958 in Morristown, New Jersey, and her parents were Reverend Richard and Mary Bell Hawke. Jennifer graduated Greenville Senior High in Pennsylvania, and she was popular among her peers and was captain of her drill team. She's also a member of the National Thespian Society and a member of her homecoming court. She got a degree in nursing and began her career as a pediatric oncology nurse at the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. And it was at that time that she met her future husband, who is William/Bill. So William, he was born on September 24th, 1956 in Southington, Connecticut, and grew up in Plainville, Connecticut. After graduating high school, he earned an undergraduate degree from Dartmouth College and a medical degree from the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine. He did his fellowship in endocrinology at Yale University School of Medicine. Jennifer and Bill got married on April 13th, 1985 in Meadville, Pennsylvania, and the couple had their two daughters, Haley Elizabeth, on October 15th, 1989, and Michaela Rose on November 17th, 1995. So in 1989, William entered private practice in Plainville. He also became a medical director of the Joslin Diabetes Center at New Britain General Hospital, now a campus of the Hospital of Central Connecticut from 1994 to 2008. He served as director of public health for Plainville. So after the births of their children, Jennifer began working as a school nurse for Cheshire Academy, and someone said that she was very loving and generous. She also enjoyed reading and playing the piano and guitar. Haley had just graduated from Miss Porter's school and had plans to attend Dartmouth University. Haley was well known, admired, and loved. She was admitted early to Dartmouth College. As a committed athlete, Haley was a 3-season varsity player of cross country, basketball, and crew. William and Jennifer said that Michaela, their youngest daughter, came into the world smiling. Michaela was looking forward to attending middle school at Chase Collegiate. She completed her summer reading and was embarking on the new Harry Potter series. Michaela loved playing soccer, basketball, and lacrosse, and she was known for her amazing friendships and being a champion by including everyone. So to the crime. On the morning of July 22nd, 2007, the family went to church together, and that evening, Jennifer and Michaela went to a local supermarket in Cheshire to gather ingredients for a recipe that Michaela wanted to cook. During the trip, a man named Joshua Komisarjevsky noticed them due to their Mercedes-Benz, and he followed them around the supermarket and then ended up following them home. The other perpetrator in this case was known as Stephen Hayes at the time. Stephen presented as male at the time of the murders, but Stephen later transitioned to female sometime after the crimes and is now known as Linda Hayes. So to save confusion and to not offend anyone, we're going to just refer to them as Hayes throughout the episode.
Yeah, you'll see it a lot of different ways online. Like some people, like in articles, even to this day, still say Stephen, others say Linda, like, and kind of backtrack. So I think Hayes is the most appropriate name just to save everyone wondering who are these people, all these different people.
Yeah, but at the time this happened, he was Stephen Hayes, and like the mugshots you'll see, he looks like a man. Sorry, I really don't want to offend anyone. I'm just trying to like make it not confusing if anyone goes and looks this up after. So as some background into the perpetrators, Hayes was born Stephen Joseph Hayes on May 30th, 1963. He was first convicted for an offense as an adult in 1980 at the age of 16. Between 1980 and the murders in 2007, Hayes was arrested almost 30 times and spent much of this time in jail. Hayes' final arrest prior to the murders was in 2004 after a car window was smashed with a rock and a woman's purse was stolen. Hayes was paroled after this in 2006 and sent to a halfway house where Hayes would then meet Joshua. So Joshua was born on August 10th, 1980 in Torrington, Connecticut. Joshua was born to a 16-year-old teenager and ended up being adopted by Benedict Komisarjevsky, who is the son of theatrical director Theodore Komisarjevsky, and his mother was a dancer named Ernestine Stadel. So his criminal record in the early 90s, Joshua's sister accused him of sexual assault, and he was convicted of that crime. He committed his first burglary when he was 14 years old, and in 2002, at the age of 22, he was arrested for 18 home invasions. So he loved doing home invasions. It seemed like when he went to the grocery store, he was looking for someone who looked wealthy enough where it'd be worth it to break into their home. And that's how he found the Pettits. So Joshua's attorney said that he was told about all of the crimes in perfect detail. Joshua said that after robbing homes, he would go into the bedrooms and listen to his victims breathe. He said he did this because he enjoyed the feeling of invading people's homes and violating their security and privacy, which is just like so creepy. He was convicted of 12 counts of burglary in December 2002 and was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Judge James Bentavegna described Joshua as a calculated, cold-blooded predator. Joshua ended up being paroled in April 2007, regardless of being a calculated, cold-blooded predator. Under Connecticut law, prosecutors were supposed to send the parole board a transcript of the sentencing proceeding, but the parole board that released him never received the transcript and was not aware of all the details regarding his case. So it seems like maybe there was like some type of error, but
Yeah, like a clerical error that allowed him to
get out and immediately commit crimes again.
Mm.
So it seems like Joshua and Hayes had decided to carry out a crime and decided that the Pettit family would be the target. After Joshua followed them home from the grocery store, he had a text conversation with Hayes that read, so this would be Joshua speaking. He said, "I'm chomping at the bit to get started. Need a margarita soon." Hayes then replied, "We still on?" Joshua replied, "Yes." Hayes said, "Soon?" To which Joshua replied, "I'm putting the kid to bed. Hold your horses." Hayes replied, "Dude, the horses want to get loose, LOL," which is so disgusting once you know what happened. Like, they're acting like this is like going out with their friends to have beers and like watch a game. Like, woo, we're going out, we're gonna get drunk. But they're really talking about breaking into someone's home and murdering 75% of a family. Even though maybe they weren't, murder wasn't always on the table, but still. So the two hatched a plan to rob and ransack the Pettit home, but they apparently never planned to hurt anyone, which is what they've said. So on the night of July 22nd into the 23rd, William, he fell asleep on the couch downstairs in the sunroom. This happened often because he didn't like to disturb Jennifer by getting into bed after she was already asleep. He'd fallen asleep after reading the paper while the girls watched Army Wives in the living room. So this info about the night is from Time. It says he was exhausted, he'd gotten some sun out on the golf course, and he had just eaten a big plate of pasta. Not long after the girls' show started, he was out cold on the couch, a section of the newspaper on his chest. When Army Wives ended at 11, the girls locked up the house and went upstairs to bed, leaving a light on in the kitchen for the cats as usual. With her dad asleep on the couch downstairs, Michaela curled up in her parents' bed, where she and Jennifer read the latest Harry Potter book together and fell asleep. So it just seemed like a nice, wholesome family.
Yeah.
Hayes and Joshua entered the house in the early hours of July 23rd through the basement and an unlocked door. They found William sleeping in the sunroom, and Joshua found a baseball bat leaning on the basement stairs, and he used that to strike William in the head multiple times. William recalled the incident, saying, "It was very strange. I remember thinking and feeling, ow, ow, ow. The next thing I knew, I was seated in the middle of the sofa with my head down. It was dark. There was something warm running down the front of my face. I couldn't imagine, like, being asleep and just waking up to that. They then bound William's wrists and ankles with zip ties and rope. William has said that one criminal said to the other, "If he moves, put 2 bullets in him." William quickly realized that he was in grave danger, and according to Time, he's been taking a prescription blood thinner called Coumadin since he started having heart trouble a few years ago. So he lies on the couch. He's bleeding out faster than most people. So yeah, obviously, if you're on a blood thinner, you're going to bleed much faster.
Not going to clot, yeah.
William said that one of the men said, "If you give us what we want, we won't hurt you," and asked, "Where's the safe?" He said there was no safe. William said he was in and out of consciousness, but heard early morning birds singing. So just like he kind of tell what time of day it was, maybe. Joshua and Hayes went and found Jennifer and the girls. They tied them by their wrists and ankles to the bedposts. They placed pillowcases over their heads. After restraining everyone, they ransacked the house looking for cash, and they weren't satisfied with what they found. Hayes left the home and purchased $10 worth of gas. The gas was put into 2 cans and had been taken to the Petit house. Which I'm like, if they're doing that this early, that's interesting, considering they said they weren't going to hurt anyone. Hayes returned to the home and forced Jennifer to go to the bank to withdraw $15,000. And so when they broke in, it was very early in the morning, and the bank didn't open till probably like 8 a.m. or something. So they basically held them hostage and just tormented them for hours until the bank opened. Hayes said the family would be harmed if Jennifer didn't go get the money. So Jennifer went into Bank of America, where Mary Lyons was working as the manager. Mary did an interview with USA Today, and she spoke about this interaction. So she explained to me, so Hayes, I'm pretty sure, drove to the bank with Jennifer, but didn't go in with her because they figured that would look weird. So, I mean, dumb of them to assume she wouldn't try to get help in some way, I guess. But she went inside alone. So this is the bank manager said. She explained to me that her family was being held, and as long as she got the money and got back to the house, everybody would be okay. I just knew from the look on her face and the look in her eyes that she was telling the truth. Her eyes told me a look from one mom to another mom. And I get why, I guess, because for a minute I was like, well, why wouldn't she just stay at the bank and be like, call 911? But it's because there's 2 perpetrators, so one was still at the house with her daughters. So all it would take is one guy to call the other guy and be like, okay, kill them or something. Before we get on with the episode, we have a quick word from our sponsor, Smalls. So as you all know, Peep and Freshbutt, my cats, are like a really important part of my life. I love them so much. They're like my little babies. I always talk about them. And Peep, she is a co-host. She works on the show with us. She helps me edit. So she needs some good food to keep her fueled for all of her management activities. I was always worried with her old cat food. I didn't know if it had the best ingredients and probably didn't have things that were actually that great for cats. So that's why I was really excited to work with Smalls. Their cat food has protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients that you'd find in your own fridge, and it's delivered right to your door, which is awesome because, as I've said many times, I hate the grocery store. That's why veterinarians.org rates Smalls 10 out of 10 for ingredient quality. Peep and Freshbutt really love any of the bird ones. There's like ground bird, smooth bird, all different textures of bird. That's probably their favorite one, but they really do love all of the flavors. I think I mentioned last time we spoke about this, I have to like get Peep away from the bowl. I have never seen her eat so much in her life. When I put Smalls out for them, she's there constantly. When I put her old food out for them, she'll literally have one lick and then walk away. And it always annoys me because I'm like, you were begging to be fed and now you're gone.
She's had a taste of the good stuff. She knows what she wants. So after making the switch to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. That's a really big deal. The team at Smalls is so confident that your cat will love their product that you can try it risk-free. That means they will refund you if your cat won't eat their food. So now is the time to make the switch to Smalls. Head to smalls.com/TCS and use promo code TCS at checkout for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's the best offer you'll find, but you have to use our code TCS for 50% off your first order. One last time, that's promo code TCS for 50% off your first order plus free shipping.
So Mary approved the transaction and Jennifer left with the $15,000 and Mary called the police. So despite the quick action at the bank, police decided they needed to assess the situation and set up a vehicle perimeter near the Petit house, which took over half an hour. And this was something that there was a lot of scrutiny over. During that time, Jennifer and Hayes returned to the home. Joshua, while they were away, sexually assaulted Michaela, the 11-year-old. He documented the assault and rape of her on his cell phone. Hayes also raped Jennifer, and this happened after provocation by Joshua. I guess, who knows what's true, but Hayes since said that Joshua was like, you have to do it to square up for him sexually assaulting Michaela to make it even or something. But it's like, dude, if you really didn't want to do it, you could have just been like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. So by this point, William was still restrained, but he could hear the assault of his wife going on. He yelled up and heard one of the intruders say, "Don't worry, it's going to be over in a couple of minutes." William then managed to escape. He did so by using the pole he was tied to break the plastic zip ties that bound his hands, and he escaped through the basement's door. He went next door to ask for help, and he had to roll across the ground to be able to get there. His neighbour has said that he didn't even recognise him due to the severity of his injuries.
Just to clarify, so they hit him in the head multiple times with the baseball bat, like we said, and he was bleeding out even more due to blood thinners. They zip tied him up with zip ties, and then they brought him down to the basement and tied him to like one of those cement pillar things that you see in basements, and he was like messed up. A lot of times when people read the story initially, they don't really think about like in what bad shape he was in, because they're like, oh, of course, like he escaped and didn't go save his family or something. But once you hear the whole story and like there's pictures of his injuries and stuff, like he was not in good shape. He didn't just like walk out. Like he really had to try to get out.
William has said, "I thought it's now or never, because in my mind at that moment I thought they were going to shoot us all." So there are some photos, as you said, there's photos of him, there's photos of the crime scene where he was
You can see the blood.
Yeah, there's blood on like a red pole. Like he was looks like he was tied to a pole in the middle of the basement. Heaps of blood on there. Like, yeah, it was a very horrific scene. So while Hayes was raping Jennifer, Joshua discovered that William had escaped, and this is when the crime really turned deadly. Hayes first strangled Jennifer to death. The criminals then doused her body and parts of the house, including the bedrooms of the girls, with gasoline, and they also put petrol gasoline on the girls themselves. Hayes and Joshua set the house on fire, and they fled the scene. Haley managed to escape her restraints and run out of the bedroom. She ended up collapsing at the top of the staircase. She died from smoke inhalation. 3rd and 4th degree burns on her feet indicated that she got very close to the fire around the time that she died. The medical examiner could not determine if the burns occurred, though, before or after her
It really
death.
breaks my heart that she like escaped and was close to
so
getting
close,
out.
yeah.
Like, it's so horrible.
And then was overcome. Michaela, the little one, also died from smoke inhalation. She suffered burns which also may have occurred while she was alive. Joshua's semen was found on Michaela's body. Bleach was also found on her clothes, which indicates that Joshua may have tried to eliminate the DNA evidence. So when police first arrived at the home, they found William still at the neighbour's home, and as we said, he was severely injured. They didn't know if he was the victim or the perpetrator at first, and they wouldn't even unrestrain him just in case. Hayes and Joshua fled the scene in the family vehicle. They were immediately spotted by police surveillance and were pursued. They ended up being arrested 1 block away after they crashed into a police car.
Stupid.
By this point, the horror at the home had lasted 7 hours.
So there were 4 people home, and we have...
Again, facts like that I can't comment on. All I can tell you right now is that we do have 3 confirmed fatalities. 2 female, and we're still checking on them.
And a male survivor.
Survivor was a male.
And your car.
Upon arrival at the victim's residence, the first officer observed 2 male subjects exit private residence and also observed the private residence fully engulfed in flame. The suspect vehicle rammed the Cheshire police officer's car and continued on Sorghum Mill Road.
Tonight, police removed the body of one of the victims after a home invasion leaves a mother and her 2 daughters dead.
The suspects, 26-year-old Joshua Komisarjevsky of Cheshire and 44-year-old Stephen Hayes of Winstead, were caught while trying to escape in the Pettit's car. Now, the only question remains that why did this happen to the Pettit family?
It's just such a ridiculous plan. Like, they clearly had no plan.
No.
Like, what was their getaway? To steal the car? Like, it's just such a dumb,
Like, I do
ridiculous
believe
crime.
they didn't go into this planning to murder the family, not because, like, I think that they had any sort of decency, but just because they were so stupid and literally had zero plan.
Yeah. So both Hayes and Joshua confessed to the murders. Hayes was said to have smelled of gasoline during the interrogation with police. They both tried to turn on each other. They blamed each other, and Joshua also tried to blame William for the crime. So like it was just basically a comedy, blaming everyone. He did it, he did it, that type of thing was going on. So Hayes and Joshua ended up being tried separately. Hayes' trial began on September 13th, 2010. The jury was made up of 7 women and 5 men. Hayes' defense team tried to argue that Joshua was the mastermind behind the whole crime, and they also argued that Joshua was responsible for how violent the crime escalated to. Excerpts from Joshua's journal were presented in court. So this is still at Hayes' trial, but they were kind of using his journal to paint a picture
Yeah, show how messed up he is, which he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Joshua wrote, "I'm not an angel I've never claimed to be. The scars on my soul have forever defined me as different than others." In the journal, Joshua denied raping Michaela, but he did admit to sexually assaulting her. Joshua said that he resented the implication he raped Michaela and wrote that he had spared her that degree of demoralization. "In a vulgar display of power, I ejaculated onto her." He wrote, "As for why, it was the accumulation of years of pent-up aggression." Joshua also wrote in the journal that he took photos of Michaela and that he had planned to use them to blackmail her parents. The jury was shown 8 photos taken from Joshua's phone. In 2 of the photos, Joshua was photographed nude and posing suggestively. 5 photos showed a young female with her arms tied up above her head with a cloth over her face and a close-up of her underwear. The 8th photo was of an older female, her legs splayed. Joshua wrote, "What I was not prepared for was my demons getting the better of me." In his journal, he also spoke about William. He said, "If you don't want to defend your family, then take your chances with the criminal while police sit outside and follow protocol." He wrote, "Hayley is a fighter. She continually tried time and time again to free herself. Michaela was calm. Mrs. Pettit's courage was to be respected. She could have stayed inside the bank where she was safe. Mr. Pettit is a coward. He ran away when he felt his own life was threatened," Joshua wrote. "Time and time again, I gave him the chance to save his family."
Pisses me off. Like, don't talk about any of them like this. Don't put the kids that you murdered on a pedestal, the woman that you murdered on a pedestal. Like, don't fucking talk about them.
So in the journal, he also wrote about Hayes and how he blamed Hayes. He said, "When Steve took the like of Mrs. Pettit, he took it to a whole new level. I am what I am and I make no excuses. I am a criminal with a criminal's mind, and my anticipated death sentence will be a sentence of mercy." Joshua wrote about how he started attacking William, and when he did so, it released a leash too hard to rein back in. He said, "I was faced with the shocking realization that in some respects I enjoy it. They are experiencing what I experience every day." He said, "I'm not proud of the outcome of July 23. Michaela, angel of my nightmares. My pain to yours does not compare. How could I have turned my back walking out the door knowing your fear and sorrow?" He wrote, "Michaela, Haley, Jennifer, please forgive me. Michaela, Haley, Jennifer, forgive me, please. I am damned. Take my life." Very dramatic and very...
It really does seem like he has like this weird like crush on Michaela.
Yeah.
Who was 11.
And an 11-year-old child, yeah. So William attended court every day of the trial. The jury ended up deliberating for around 5 hours, and they announced a guilty verdict on October 5th, 2010. Hayes' sentencing trial began on October 18th, 2010. Jurors had to decide if Hayes should receive the death penalty or should be imprisoned for life, and deliberations began on that on November 5th, 2010, and the jury was split at first. So the defense attorney Thomas Ullman told the jury that a sentence of life in prison would be the harshest possible punishment for Hayes because Hayes was so tormented by the crimes and would be isolated in prison. The attorney said life in prison without the possibility of release is the harshest penalty. It's a face worse than death. If you want to end the misery, put Hayes to death. If you want Hayes to suffer and carry that burden forever, the guilt, shame, humiliation, sentence Hayes to life without the possibility of release. So on November 8th, 2010, the jury reached the decision that Hayes should be executed. It had taken them 17 hours of deliberation to get to that point. After the verdict, the defense attorney said, Hayes smiled upon hearing the jury's recommendation of a death sentence. Hayes is thrilled. That's what they wanted all along. So it's a bit smug and...
Yeah.
So Williams spoke at a press conference after the verdict was returned. He said, "We all know that God is the final arbiter, and I think that the defendant faces far more serious punishments from the Lord than they can ever face from mankind." He also spoke about his family, saying Michaela was an 11-year-old little girl tortured and killed in her own bedroom, surrounded by stuffed animals. Haley had a great future. She was a strong and courageous person, and Jennifer helped so many kids. So after Hayes' trial, the Connecticut State Judicial Branch offered post-traumatic stress assistance to the jurors due to the disturbing images and testimony that they were exposed to. On December 2, 2010, Hayes apologised for the pain and suffering that they'd caused to the Petit family and added that death for me will be a welcome relief and I hope it will bring some peace and comfort to those who I've hurt so much. Judge John Blue formally imposed 6 death sentences, one for each of the capital charges, and then added a sentence of 106 years for other crimes that were committed during the home invasion, including kidnapping, burglary, and assault. The judge says, "This is a terrible sentence, but is in truth a sentence you have wrote for yourself in flames. May God have mercy on your soul." The judge also gave Hayes an official execution date of May 27th, 2011. It was a formality though, because basically if Hayes appealed, this could go on for decades. But the death sentence anyway became a life sentence in August 2015 when the state abolished capital punishment. So as we mentioned, Hayes did transition from male to female. In October 2019, Hayes said that she was transgender and was undergoing hormone therapy as part of her gender transition while incarcerated. She said that she'd been diagnosed with a gender identity disorder at 16 but had never been treated. So Joshua's trial began the next year, September 19th, 2011. His attorneys offered to have him plead guilty in exchange for life in prison, but prosecutors wanted to take the case to trial in order to give him the death penalty. Joshua's attorneys tried to blame Hayes and painted them as the criminal mastermind. They also said that Joshua was confused and easily led and that he never intended to kill anyone. So Joshua was found guilty on October 13th, 2011. On December 9th, 2011, the jury recommended the death penalty. It was the same judge, Judge Blue, and he said this is a terrible sentence, but it's one that you wrote for yourself with deeds of unimaginable horror and savagery. Joshua did make a statement during the sentencing. He spoke about the shame, disappointment and hurt he had caused, saying, "I will never find peace within. My life will be a continuation of the hurt I caused. The clock is now ticking and I owe a debt I cannot repay." He acknowledged that he did take part in the crime, but he insisted that he didn't intend to kill anyone. He said, "Millions have judged me guilty of capital offences I did not commit. I did not intend for those women to die. They were never supposed to lose their lives. I don't need 12 people to tell me what I'm guilty or not guilty of. None of them were there that morning. I know my responsibilities. I will bear them as I should. What I cannot do is claim responsibility for the actions of another." He also spoke about how the trial had affected him, which really, who cares, but saying that he had become quite comfortable in the face of hatred and bigotry, and said that the jury had recommended the death penalty for him, believed me so worthless, even my very existence is deemed intolerable. How insufferable. What a statement to make after you've...
Like, unbelievable. And there's even more. I was trying to look quickly and I couldn't find it. I'll have to look again, because if anyone's interested in it. There's like more of his journals that are out that are just so... I specifically remember reading this years ago because there's just so... It's unbelievable, the stuff that he says about himself and like about Michaela and the family, and it's just the worst.
He's also so dramatic, he's so...
He thinks he's
intolerable.
Yeah, it's like he thinks he's like smarter and more emotionally complex than everyone else. And it's like, no, dude, you just are literally the worst.
Joshua also said that forgiveness was not his to have and that he needed to forgive his worst enemy, which is himself. So during the victim impact statement, William described the crime as his personal holocaust and said, "I have a difficult time sleeping and trusting anymore. I hope to continue to honour my family. I push forward in the hope that good will overcome evil." Judge Blue set Joshua's execution date as July 2012, but his death sentence was also turned into a life sentence in August 2015. So there is kind of one... bit of a happy ending, I guess, after all this. In 2012, William did remarry. His new wife is photographer Christine Palouf. The two met while Christine was working as a volunteer for the Petit Family Foundation, which is a charity that was set up by William in honour of his family. The foundation helps educate young people, improve the lives of those with chronic illnesses, and protect those affected by violence. Jennifer's mother, Mary Bell, said her family welcomed the engagement and encouraged William to find peace and joy in his life. And Jennifer's sister was among the wedding guests, and they read a blessing written by Jennifer's father at the wedding. In November 2013, the couple did have a son together. He's also named William, so it's good, I guess, that he's been able to move on and have some type of a life after this horrific thing that essentially could have, overtaken his whole entire remaining life.
I just can't even imagine. I don't even know how you go on, and I get that it's annoying kind of when people say stuff like that, I get, but... because he has no choice but to go on because he wanted to make sure that there was justice for his family.
Lives,
So he fought and continued and went to court every day. And I couldn't even imagine going to court and hearing again having to like live through it and hearing the awful things that were done to your wife and daughters and going through all of that. So I am glad that he was able to at least find some happiness again. But I'm sure, because you see people say like, wow, he survived and he was spared, but it's like, was he really? Because I'm pretty sure there's quotes of him saying he wished that he also died with them.
And even for him to say it's his own personal Holocaust and he can't sleep, he can't trust anyone, you know. And like, because I guess in some crimes, you know, you'd think, okay, well, I could have done this differently. Like, I should have seen the red flags. In this, there was nothing. Like, they actually could not have done anything else to stop this from happening.
No, it's very sad.
So I was interested to see kind of photos of the house. It does seem like, I know this happened a little while ago now, this crime, but a lot of it has been scrubbed. The house at 300 Sorghum Mill Drive was torn down after this all happened. And in 2020, a memorial was built on the site. Neighbor Anthony Ferralio said, I can't wait to come home tomorrow and see it all done. Anthony and his wife Kim had spent years maintaining the garden memorial that was where the house was. Anthony said, people will still come here and sit and walk around and reflect. They leave lots of mementos. There's always been crosses left in a lot of things and we've collected them over the years. The new design was put together by the Petit Family Foundation and included a 30-foot stone circle with benches, stepping stones and a cobblestone walkway, and a fountain was also placed in the centre. The designer, David Lamoureux, said it's going to be something totally self-sufficient. It's going to be solar-powered and we're going to put a well in here. The new memorial includes some of the original pieces. 3 angel stone crosses and benches will be reused while some of the plants have been repurposed. There's a 4 o'clock flower, which was Michaela's favourite, and that will take a prominent role in the memorial. 3 heart-shaped gardens will have flowers planted in them. The state of Connecticut named the flower the state official's children's flower in her honour. Anthony, the neighbour, said, I think the neighbourhood will really embrace it. So will the town, as they have in the past. So I guess that's a nice... you know, it's kind of like reminds me of the Idaho murders and even the Beaver family.
I was going to say the Beaver family or Beaver,
where the house burnt down, didn't it? After a while,
yeah, like randomly burned down, and we were like, it was definitely the neighbor who did it.
The neighbor. Like I get it. If that happened in my neighborhood, you would want something like this. You would think as well, rather to stop people looking and breaking in and
just like, seeing their idol for years.
Live in the house, So like there is photos of the garden. It's beautiful. It looks like a very peaceful, manicured, well maintained, place that would be important for the community, I would think.
Yeah, it's just such like a horrible, scary story to think. All they did for this to happen was they went to the grocery store.
Yeah, like imagine if they had have gone an hour earlier. Like obviously you can't think about things
even
like this because
5 minutes earlier. Like just they never crossed paths.
Or just went to a different supermarket that day, or, I don't know. That's just, sometimes your life, I feel like, is just written, and it's a horrible, horrible thing to have happen, but sometimes there really is nothing you can do to help yourself, which is the most terrifying part of this.
Yeah. There is, if anyone's interested in a documentary about this case, there's one called, I think it's just called The Cheshire Murders. I think it's on HBO. I looked, it definitely was like an HBO documentary, so I'm assuming you could get it on Max or whatever. But if you just look up the Cheshire Murders documentary, it should come up and show you where to watch it. I watched it a long time ago, and I remember it was pretty well done. If you want to learn more about the story and see it in a documentary form.
We have, when we said on Instagram that we were going to cover this, we've had a lot of people saying that this is just one case that they can't listen to or hear about because it was just so horrific. And I just feel like it is just so unimaginable to even just think that your life can change so quickly. Someone said the documentary was one of the most brutal they've watched. So if you do want to watch it, just a bit of a warning about that.
Yeah.
And there's also William was on Oprah. We might see if we can find a clip to put in as well. But he's done some interviews about kind of the aftermath and his life and things like that after the murders, if you're interested in doing more of a dive.
He's really been such a strong person in making sure like his family is remembered and getting justice for them, like I said, but like still continuing to honor their lives. That's really it for this episode. There's not really much to discuss. That's really it. If you want to learn more about it, like I said, there's that documentary. Also, we'll have our blog on this case at truecrimesocietyblog.com. And make sure you follow us on Instagram at True Crime Society. We post lots of updates there on all different cases. And if you want to see what we're up to, follow our personal accounts. Mine's Steph_Sum_. Olivia's TCS Olivia. And check us out on Patreon if you want more content. We do weekly bonus episodes, and we do all the episodes ad-free. And we do early release on the regular episodes, so they come out at least a day earlier. And we have some nice little chats in there, and we have community chats with everyone. And that's really it. All the usual stuff. Leave us nice comments, nice reviews. Share the podcast on your Instagram stories. We love when you guys do that. It's like the easiest way to promote the show for us. So if you could do that, we're very grateful. Thank you guys for listening. Stay safe out there. Peace out.